For example, if we are starting a seed, if we have, for example, 1 year old, we have started from seed, and we have grafted our little apple. We should have something like this. 1 year old. Here is the graft. What do we want to do? All plants, in general, they have a characteristic that that is called apical dominance. So the apex of every plant is sending down a hormone that is called auxin, that is preventing the other buds to open. So this tree, most of the time, will just tend to continue growing like this and not make any lateral branch. So most of the time what is suggested, depending on the rootstock, so in this case we put the seeds, so we have which kind of rootstock?
Frank.
Ankle Frank. And so with this kind of rootstock, it's suggested to prune here, the first year.
What?
At 1 meter, more or less. And this will break the apical dominance and block this auxin from going down to the bud. So we will very likely start to have other branches like this. We should be careful to leave at least 40-60 centimeters free from branches, because we don't want the branches to touch the ground, to be too low. And the first things to do is to start train 4 branches that should be best in the 4 different directions, and at least 10-15 minutes separate from them on the trunk. From here we will also have another sprout that will likely go back. It's important also to, normally the first 2-3 sprouts, they will do like this, and then probably we will have other sprouts like this, depending on the variety, as we said before. So what we want to do is to keep just one, normally the higher one, the most vigorous one, and then what we can do with we can go there with for example the clove pins, the one for hanging the clothes. And if we have a branch that is going too much like this, we put the clove pin attached to the trunk, and we make it bending like this. One like this, one like this. Other thing we can do is to take a rope and attach it like this to the trunk, or also attaching like this to the soil. But this is how we start training the trees from when it's young, and how we prevent to use a lot the pruners, because when we cut a big branch, we are basically wasting a lot of energy that the trees has invested in this branch. So the aim of this is to create the first, it's called the first wall of branches that will create the first 4 branches in 4 directions. If we see it from above, of course it will be like this. And then the second year, basically we will do the same. The tree will continue to grow. Also here everything will grow. These 4 branches will be the wider ones, and then we try to keep everything clean, 40-60 centimeters again, and then we can start train other 4. And this is the central leader. Normally there is other maximum 1 or 2, and then the tree more or less is mature, and then basically we will not touch it so much. So if we do this kind of job, of course the basal the basic, let's say the first wall will be a bit larger, and here a bit smaller. And with the weight of the fruits, also naturally the branches will bend by themselves, because what we're gonna promote through another technique that is called disbudding and also thinning the fruits is that we're gonna take out everything that grows. It's called the chimney. So we want to clear all the branches that are growing, so all the buds that are growing in this chimney, more or less 20-30 centimeters diameter between around the trunk, because we want the light to go in and also the air to flow out. And so we are going to promote this, and this can be done also during the flowering season. That is very important, especially so the first 2-3 years we remove all the flowers, and then from the 3rd year on we can leave. Normally the apple has 4-5 flowers, and we normally leave the one in the center, that is the bigger one, for fruits. So we leave only one, and it's good to leave at least 20-30 centimeters between one fruit of another, so this one would go. If there is another one, this one would go. And especially the ones that are more on the apex of the plants, so that they will bend naturally. And yeah, so this is more or less the central leader technique. Did you already know this one?
No.
Because, for example, in Italy, most of the people use the open vase. I don't know what is used in Romania mostly.
It looks more like the open vase, I'd say, but I don't know.
Mostly I've seen like this also. I also prune them like the open vase more.
Do you know Oschberg Palma? That technique? It's some Austrian thing, and I tried to do it, but it's pretty complicated, and I think this is nice. It's very easy to understand. I like it.
I mean, this is a try to really simplify also the work of pruners in general.
Yeah.
To minimize the interventions that you need to do. And trying to promote the natural shape of a plant.
And if they grow like this straight, is there more danger of them breaking at some point? No. Okay.
No, actually, for me, there is more danger when when it's open like this, because you might, most of the time. So what do they do to have an open vase? Normally, it's very similar at the beginning. You cut here, but instead of keeping the one that is growing like this, you are bending all of them in different direction like this, and you have an open base. And then basically you treat every branch, every secondary branch, as the central leader that we said before. So this will become, in Italy, this is known especially for the olives. It's called polyconical vase. So this is like a cone. So you will have like a point, like a arrow on the top, and then it's half a cone, because the cone will be only on the outside, but you will remove everything that grows inside. So if you have a branch that is going like this towards the inside, you will take it out, but you will leave everything that grows around like this on the outer part. And sometimes I see many trees that it's quite important also here to have at least some distance between along the trunk between the main the secondary branches, but many times they are at the same level, so there is more risk to break.
And except for the chimney, you let everything grow, or you also take out the ones growing downwards or something?
Yeah, in general, you try to control the ones that are to the suckers, the ones that are to assurgent, and the one, of course, that are growing towards the center.
Okay, so you still take them out everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ones that grow down, no? Like the branch.
Also the one that
goes down because they go like this also.
Yeah. Yeah, the dead, diseased, displaced, and there were the 4 Ds. I don't remember the last. damaged branches. And then we have the modified central leader, that basically is you start with the central leader, the same. Then you will have so the first 4 branches like this. And then instead of having other 2 or 3 walls, you just cut it like this, and here you have an open center. So it's really a hybrid between. This is the modified central leader. Is really a hybrid between central leader and open center.
And which one you think is more efficient?
For me, the central leader.
Okay.
Then of course.
Even as pest control and fruiting and everything.
I think it's because it's. I mean, if you watch the trees around, most of them have a central leader.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's really the most natural. Then, as I said, the peaches, then I would grow more as an open center. Also because you cannot keep them as a central leader. So I also try to, at the end, the first year is the same, no? You have the tree and you're gonna cut it here. Yeah. I have apples and I have plums. And the plums can be also in between, and I have some plums that are already opening like this, and I have some plums that are going up like this. So I'm just gonna invite them as they want to grow. It's important to know both of them and to play with them. There is never like a strict rule, but it's always about observation. And yeah, it's important to know that if this is the trunk, that you want to favor the branch. I mean, these will be the suckers, these plants that the branches that grow like this. So you have your branch like this, and then you have branch. If you leave it going, you will have branches like this. And so this one it's better to cut because they want to compete with the central leader. So if I have a central leader, I need to have only one leader that always has to be the higher. If I have other branches that want to compete, I just cut like this. This cut is called thinning. The one I do here is called heading. These are the 2 main cuts. Of course, then there are so many other variants. And basically, when I have the open vase, I treat, as I said before, I treat the 4 or 5 secondary branches as they are the central leader. So this one is always the highest point. If I have other branches that start from here, want to compete with the leader, just take them out. Because basically, both with the central leader and with the open vase, the 4 branches and the central branch, these are the ones that are carrying the fruiting branches, that are all these branches that grow almost horizontally, and as we said before, these are the ones who are bearing the fruits. Then, of course, every plant has different fruiting patterns. For the apples, it's more, you have to keep 2-3 years wood for having fruits. For the peaches, for example, they fruit already the first year. So some people really prune them very hard to have a lot of fruits, but then in a way it's damaging also the plant. In general, cherry is the one that wants less pruning. So the cherry is really the one that you should be much more careful. And another important thing to say is that, for example, in the traditional way of pruning, apple and pears are pruned generally early spring, so just before they put the leaves, and peaches just after the peaches and cherries in the summer, because they are much more, and apricot also, because they are much more prone to disease, so it's better to prune when it's warmer. So many cherries, a lot of people have problems with cherries, and it's important to not to prune them in the winter, otherwise you can create a lot of disease for them. And actually cherries is really important to prune as less as possible, so rather use, if you want to have an open center, it's important to, because they tend to grow very high, so we can use ropes to bend the branches like this. So this was the traditional approach, but in the syntropic approach, everything is pruned only during when a tree can make photosynthesis. So it means that the pruning happens only during when the trees have the leaves. So especially also
Before
the
fruiting or after?
for the
Before, no?
apples during the flowering,
Okay.
or just before the flowering. No, sorry, just after the flowering, because they start flowering and then they put the leaves. And this is something that most of the people are shocked, because they say no, the trees need to be pruned in the.
The trees.
Yeah, like
Structures.
my personal explanation is like this also, because I am like this in the winter. Like I want to, I want to go out and prune and use the, but yeah, I think this is the main reason.
Okay.
But then it's all about trying and experimenting. But for me, it makes a lot of sense.
So you prune them in between after they flower and before they make the leaves, no? In that.
But they should have leaves, you said, or?
During the flowering and when they're starting to making leaves. But the peaches and the cherries
After the fruit,
after,
no?
much after, after the in the summer. And with the peaches, for example, also it's important to remove the fruits and to keep a distance. So this is called thinning. And so this is for the fruit trees, but also in general, this is valid also for the biomass species. So again, I already mentioned it yesterday when I was talking about the nitrogen fixers, that we can have different type of plants. So the plants that we already mentioned, we can have placenta, we can have secondary, and normally the support species are part of these two categories, because you normally don't put support species that are part of the climax, because they grow much slower. You can foresee, for example, to plant together with the system that we have. If we had the possibility to take out all those trees, we could, for example, plant cherries and walnuts and oaks, maybe very distant from one another, and we know that in 30 years they will grow very slow, and in 30 years they will be the climax, and the oak can be, for example, the support species for the cherry and the walnut. But in general, most of the biomass that we want is from these two categories, because we want plants that grow very quickly. So the placenta could be a cover crop, so it could be the clover. So we have our 3 rows here that we made, and then here we have seeded a cover crop, and here we have another 3 rows. And what we will do, what I will suggest to do here is, when the cover crop, now maybe Andy will sow a bit more, because now we stepped a lot on it, and then of course there will be a lot of annuals growing. What is important to do, as soon as you see that most of the plants are going into flower, during the flowering we cut everything and we put the biomass on the rows. And this can be done, if you do it at the right time, with this climate, you can have, it's like growing the hay, no? And you can do it maybe up to 3 times. I don't know how many times they collect the hay here.
I do it 2 times usually.
2 times.
Yeah.
Same for the biomass species. So I was talking yesterday about the robinia, so the acacia, that is a plant that is a nitrogen fixer and is often used in these syntropic systems, and it has a very nice flowering, and we don't want that. We want to cut them, so to prevent them from flowering. Same thing is if we put the broad beans, fava beans, or any other kind of leguminous, what we can do to increase the life of this plant that we want that it stays alive as much as possible, and to increase the benefits that this can give to the system, because it is a support plant. So we're putting this fava bean, this fabacea, these leguminous, next to our eggplant, for example, and we go there and we just remove the seeds, the flowers. As soon as making, same thing you can do with the phacelia, same things you can do with the clover. You just go around. If you have a small system, of course it's possible to do it by hand. That's why in general in the syntropic system you don't put the placenta in between the support placenta in between the row, because it's very difficult management. Of course you put it here and you just pass with the rototiller or with a cutter like a mower and you mow it. That's but we put a lot of we put elderberry, we put willows. So all these plants we will need to prune them during the flowering, because that's the moment where they have most of their life activation. So that's how we normally prune, and this is the same for also the rosemary when they're making flower, the lavender, the thyme. So all these plants that we're using as a biomass species, if we go around and we take out the flowers, we are basically feeding our focus plants. So this is the first intervention you can do to feed your. It's basically a fertilization. So what is said often in Syntropic is that you are planting the water, as I was explaining yesterday, and when the plant goes into flowers and then into seed, I just repeat for Dragos. What does it happen?
Can you?
When a plant, for example, wheat, it's making the seed. What does it need to happen after that?
After the seed?
Yeah. For us, what do we want? Like,
We want the seed to be dry, so.
you already know.
Sorry.
Oh, to harvest it basically.
Yeah, basically, what is happening, for example, with the apple, a fruit tree, or with any tree after the flowering is making the seeds. So, for example, a leguminous plant will take all the nitrogen that is fixed in the ground, take it back to create the seeds, and all the nutrition will be in the seed. Same thing for the wheat. So it will take out the nutrition from the soil and put it into the seeds. But we want to keep the nutrition that stays in the soil. Moreover, the seed will need to dry, so the wheat will will not pump any more water up, because the plant is at the end of its cycle and is drying up. So it's not pumping water up from the soil, and you will have drying information going all around this field, this plot. And senescence, because the plant is like getting old, is dying. And basically, if we cut it, the plant will sprout again and will start pumping a lot of water, releasing growth hormones all around, and releasing the nutrients, because when we prune a plant, we are also pruning the roots. So part of the roots are dying and they become nutrients for the other plants. So that's the way we are keeping the system young, and we are doing it with the placenta, and we are doing with the secondary, that could be the robinia, could be the willow, the elderberry. So this is the first thing to do. Secondly, what you will, is it clear this point?
Yeah.
Just watch the lavender, please. Did you find them? Did you plant the broad beans yesterday? Or
No, I forgot to give you the broad beans.
Oopsie.
You have?
Yeah, I had the.
You can.
Yeah.
Oh, we can plant them now.
I didn't find them. I'll check.
I thought you gave the bag to me, and then what did I do with it?
I don't remember. If not, I do it at some point.
Okay. Which ones are those?
Leguminous also to fix nitrogen.
Did we not
We have already, but
plant them?
no.
So this is how we manage not to water so much during the, like to have systems that are thriving also without water in very arid climates. And here, of course, we will have after a while, we will have a very dense system. And we will have to see what we need to preserve. So we will have many options, and there will be plants that are more vigorous than others. So first thing in general to do, as we said, is to remove the flower. But after that, if we, for example, we have a berry bush, but on the other side we have the cap plant that is much more vigorous, it's taking over. What we are gonna do is just to cut the cap plant and use this as a mulch. So we put some plants as the topinambur, as the comfrey, as the cap plant. They are all from different life cycles, and they all have different growth and light behavior and light needs. So the cap plant will grow more like this, the comfrey will grow more like this. But since these are all very vigorous plants that we have chosen them for that, we will have the possibility to keep cutting them and keep feeding our system. And this is how we prevent the fact that we need to bring more manure, more biomass. So basically, we are not only producing our berry that will thrive with all these fruits, but we are also producing the fertilizer in the same place.
Design is on point.
Your drawing is very...
It's a full system.
Looks like a kid who made it.
A what?
A kid. Kid drawing.
I don't know, I saw some drawings yesterday and they were a little bit better.
Dalias. I go and look for the pins now.
I'm wondering just, so they're not actually competing for nutrients, but they're adding to the system their nutrients.
They are competing. They might be competing, but we are choosing one instead of the other.
Okay, and then with the roots it's no problem, like topinambur, and also with the cup plant I saw they have very big root growth.
Yeah, if we keep cutting it, it will just
Die back.
keep giving nutrients, because
Okay.
as I said, they have roots. When in the moment that we cut it, also you are cutting this part of the root. So in this way, the berry that is more shy will just go here and nurture itself with the dead parts of the roots of the cup plant.
Okay.
And so we have the possibility. Then maybe this one will grow again like this, and maybe can disturb the berry, and you're gonna cut it again.
So also things like topinambur, by cutting it down on the top,
Yeah.
you also regulate the root growth.
Then there are different type of management for different plants. Cup plant is not is a plant that I don't know actually how it works. So I don't know if you have already tried to cut it. But for example, what it happens with the topinambur, the behavior is that it goes straight like this, and it doesn't really make so much shade or either biomass. But if we add it, it will start to do as we said before. No, we break the apical dominant, and we start to get bushy.
Yeah.
And so it will start to enlarge, and then we can continue to prune it. And in this way, we are creating a lot of biomass,
Okay, nice.
not to keep it going up. Other plants that we put, the comfrey, of course. When we start to cover other plants, we can just really cut it at zero and we start back. And
And it comes back really fast in 1 week. It's back again.
the elderberry in general can grow. For example, if we have a tree, the elderberry could also start to occupy, for example, this part. While the aromatic plants, when the plant is smaller, since it still needs sun, it will just make a cover around the trunk of the tree without disturbing the tree. And then when the tree will go bigger, it will die by itself because it doesn't have enough sunlight. But we have put different types of aromatics, and if, for example, the sage and the thyme are fading, probably we will have the lemon balm and the mint that will take over and will create a ground cover for us. So it is important also to have always more options. We are still experimenting, we don't know, that's why also we put a bit more normally of what we need, because to see what is working, what's not. In the next months, maybe in autumn, when it's the best period for cuttings, you will see what it has worked or what has not worked, and you can keep adding to the system.
So the biomass we put in the sides of the row, no, that we created.
Also there you can be, you just do it as you think it's best for you.
What do you mean?
So for example, if you have a small system, as we did in other parts, we have put the broad bean also here, and the clover also, but then you have to go and search and remove the flower, so it's a lot of work. I more suggest to put the placenta here. In this case, we have decided to put the potatoes here, because they are our cash crop. We want to harvest, maybe not all of them, but most of them. And they are on the south side. But we'll put the potatoes also here, and the topinambur also here. So the plants that are for the biomass we have put a bit out on this side, while the focus plants, they are a bit more in the row. But there are really infinite possibilities. We did this because we didn't have a very large row. But for example, another thing you could do, or other people do, they have the central row, then they have the biomass with the straw, and then they have other lines like this
Of Syntropic.
of like biomass, and then they have another line of artichoke in the middle, and then they have another line of so they really you can be creative, and there are so many different ways. There is not one way. They are like really infinite, because you are seeing how many plants we are using, so the combination are huge. In the past we kind of made this mistake, so we're not doing it again. Maybe we have made other mistakes now, but it's as I said, it's a very experimenting system that is still not very known in Europe. So.
And in time between the rows where you want to do the placenta, what will it become? Did you design this in the future, or maybe you want to grow some crops, some market gardening?
In the middle?
Yeah.
Actually, it might be our access in the future, so that's why we left it open.
Access to
the property, yes.
Okay.
Instead of coming from here, this would be a quicker way.
Oh,
So that's why we
nice.
left the middle.
Okay.
But that will clear up in the next year, I guess. And if it doesn't work, then we could plant something.
There's another path down there.
Yeah, so the way you're going up, it's actually like a detour. If you go directly like this, you're down much quicker. But it's
Makes
not our
sense.
land.
You want to buy it, or you want to make a deal with the owner?
Probably better to put something legal on paper.
To not have show
Exactly.
today.
Make a break.
Yeah.
After the break, what do you think?
Or maybe I can explain the last thing. We can have a break and then we go quickly in the field. I think, okay, we already did the bigger part of the job. And it's just about how to organize well the organic matter. So we kind of go back to the first topic we talked about yesterday. And what is important is that we are, I said the central line is free. So since we have very small plants, when we go now in the fields, we need to be careful that our, for example, eggplants are not covered by straw or soil. Another thing we should take care is that yeah, we as I said, more or less 20 centimeters this part, and in some places the straw is very compacted, so we need a bit to take the straw to aerate a bit, as Bernie was doing, because there were some parts that were not being opened, and in this way the potatoes won't manage very easily to come out if they have a too big layer. So just to make a bit more uniformous, and what it will be done in a few years, probably when already next year the biomass will start growing. It would be better always, as I said at the beginning yesterday, to try to put the branches below. So when you're pruning,
Yeah.
you can either cut it a bit smaller and put it inside like here, or maybe you manage to lining them down next to the mulch, or you can put them under the mulch like this.
Okay.
The mulch for sure will disappear a little bit, but yeah, since you will have more lignin that is more in contact with the ground. And yeah, of course, if you have herbaceous biomass like topinambur, kaplan, these can go on top.
So usually after putting the first mulch, all the mulch would be provided by the system, right? So we don't have to put any more inputs. Okay.
And this is, as we said before, we want to concentrate all the energy here. It could be also seen as I don't know. For sure, you have all the elements of the energy that are concentrated. So the rain, this provides a protection from the wind, maybe from some animals. And
higher temperature.
Temperature. You have the good, less transpiration, but then you also have a hair that is passing through, and so this is a protection that we want to keep. Other things for organizing the biomass, well, I already said a lot yesterday. There are many different kinds of biomass, and we are shifting more from bacteria colonization to a fungi, so we will use much more, maybe in the future, much more wood chips. So if you have also a small chipper, you can even take the branches. You will have small branches, you can chip them and put them in the system. So it's good normally to start with the more hay and straw that degrades much quicker, but then to use also more, you can use leaves, you can use wood chips, what you find around basically. Yeah, I think that's it.
Nice, thank you.
Then if other questions come up, we will see later.
So little break?
Yeah.
Once.
One.
Zwei.
Wow.
Drei.
Right.
Right.
What is it?
Bavarian.
Dialect, yeah.
A dialect?
You speak the same?
Sounds like French a bit.
We know it at least, yeah.
No.
No.
It sounded like German. It's my try, but
I didn't even understand
Once,
what he
zwei,
said. It was like
drei.
once.
what dialect is it, you said?
Bavarian.
Bavarian. Oh, okay.
Can you repeat?
Once. Zwei. Drei.